Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Tanya with Dr. Tanya's Transformational Coaching. I'm so happy to be with you here today. Today, I want to teach about clearing limiting beliefs. And I actually want to do a series of videos. So, this will be video number one, where I'll do an introduction and an overview about clearing limiting beliefs. But I also want to do this series as a fundraiser about a project that is very dear to my heart, the Sundance ceremony in the Black Hills this June 17th, 2022. And below my video, there's a link. So if you like what you learned today in my video, I would love it if you could click on the link and make a donation to the GoFundMe for the Sundance in the Black Hills. Thank you so much. All right, on to the lesson. So, why do we want to clear limiting beliefs? The reason we want to clear limiting beliefs is because they stop you from getting whatever you want in your life. So, if you find yourself that you are really wanting to make more money, maybe you're wanting to have happier relationships in your life, maybe you're wanting a romantic relationship in your life, or maybe the romantic relationship in your life is not going well and you can't figure out why. Or maybe you have some health concerns. Maybe you have some health concerns that are scaring you and you have some anxiety about that. You worry about that. And all of these are symptoms of limiting beliefs. So, what are limiting beliefs? Limiting beliefs are sort of what blocks you from getting what you want. So let's say you want more money, but you believe that it's not possible to get it. So I want more money, but I don't think I can get it. I want more money, but the economy is not really good right now. I want more money, but I don't have a job. So essentially, you kind of stay stuck in the same place because you are wanting something, but you have this belief that you can't get it. So it kind of keeps you have like a freight train going in this direction and a freight train going in that direction, and you just kind of stay stuck. So you can look at that also with anything. So with your health, let's say you have something going wrong with your health, like you're in chronic pain, something like that. Like, I want to feel better, but I have this chronic pain. I want to feel better, but I'm in pain. I want to feel better, but my body hurts. I want to feel better. It's not getting better. And so there's sort of this, you desire something, and then you put a belief in there that says, nope, you can't have it. And you might argue, well, the belief is true. So the limiting belief is true. So why not think it? And that's where the trick comes, is that if you can start to learn what's called the power of ignoring, the power of ignoring, because there's a lot of things that are true in this world that you don't pay attention to at all. And so just by the fact that something is true does not justify you paying attention to it. So you can think of it like a simple example, like a little child who is learning to walk and they stumble and they fall down. You wouldn't say, "Oh, you stumbled and you fell down." Like, to the little child, they'd start crying. You'd say, "Hey, look, you took 2 steps. Good job." So it's sort of the difference between the optimist and the pessimist. And a lot of times pessimists will argue for their limitation and say, "I'm a realist." And okay, why can't you be an optimistic realist? Why can't you focus on the things that are going right because they make you feel better, and ignore the things that are going wrong because they end up making you feel really depressed or sad or stuck or limit your desire? So you can think of it about sort of the masters in the world who have invented so many things, or we study them in science and literature and uh, so many fields where uh, these masters have reached this level of creativity And, you know, they faced opposition when they were doing their master craft. Why did they face opposition? Because people didn't believe what they were doing was possible or true. I mean, there's so many examples in history where people were killed for their ideas because they dared to believe something that wasn't considered true at the time. And so, what we're talking about here is focus. We're talking about is focus. It's about focusing on uh, what is going right instead of what is going wrong. And that when you think of these masters in their fields, what are they good at? Focus. So they have this dream, let's say. It's up in this, you can't see it. I want to call it the vortex. Um, a lot of what I'm teaching is based on the teaching of Esther and Jerry Hicks, who wrote the book The Law of Attraction. Um, and I often use it interchangeably with Abraham Hicks, which is the teachings of Esther and Jerry Hicks. So Abraham Hicks teaches about this vibrational world called the vortex. It's kind of everything that you want is in the any prayer you have of things that you want. You want somebody to get well because they're sick. That's in the vortex, and it's in this holding tank. If you want yourself to get well, that's a prayer that's in the vortex in your holding tank. If you want more money for yourself, that's a prayer that's in the holding tank or a wish. If you want money for others, it's up there in this vibrational vortex. So, what's great about that and why I like it is because my history is working with addiction and codependency and treatment. And what is addiction and codependency about? It's about negative thoughts. Essentially, people are addicted to negative thoughts, and their negative thoughts are so unbearable. Either worry, they're just worried about things, that's a negative thought, or they're feel bad about themselves, or they're angry at somebody else, or they're angry at a situation, and they're in these negative thoughts that uh, keep them feeling so bad that they're looking for escape from the negative thoughts. And so what they do is a lot of times using substances or other addictive behavior so they can escape their negative thoughts and kind of numb out. Uh, codependence, I call it codependency and addiction. Codependence is about trying to control others. So somebody who does that is doing that because they want to avoid their negative thoughts. They have these negative thoughts of worry, like, oh my God, this thing is going badly. I better get involved and start controlling the situation so everything gets better. But that's addictive. And it actually doesn't stop the problem because the problem is with the negative thinking. So instead of doing these addictive behaviors, what I'm teaching here is about changing your thoughts. So changing your thoughts. So your thoughts come first. Then your emotions are based on your thoughts. That comes second. And then your actions are inspired by your emotions. So we teach this in behavioral health. In behavioral health, we teach change your thoughts, which will change your emotions, which will change your actions. And so many people try to do it backwards, where they're trying to change their actions, but they haven't worked on changing their thinking or their emotions, which were based on their thinking. And instead, they're just trying to say, quit smoking. And they're like, they can't quit smoking. They can't quit smoking because it's this behavior that's so entrenched. And so what you want to do is learn to first work on changing your thoughts, because that's where the change will happen in your behavior, in any kind of behavior you're trying to change. But many people are very entrenched in their thinking. And so that's what this class is about. It's about sort of freeing you up a little bit, freeing up a bunch of what's going on up here, and learning how to really harness your power of focus on the positive and to ignore the negative stuff, which you can't control, by the way. And control is codependency. So if you're trying to control stuff that you can't control, it's an addiction. We want to clear that. The only thing you can control is you. And the way to control yourself the best is to control your thoughts, control your thinking. You have 100% control over the thoughts that you're thinking in your head. 100% control. Other people out there and what they're doing, zero control. Maybe there's some influence in there you could do, but I'll tell you the influence that's the most powerful is when you're in a place of alignment yourself. Otherwise, it's the blind leading the blind. If you're out there trying to control a situation when you're in a negative emotional state, you're making the situation worse and bigger. That's what codependency is. Codependency is somebody trying to help somebody else from a negative emotional state, and they're making the situation worse and bigger. And often the codependent person doesn't see that. They're like, oh no, I'm helping. But they're not helping. They're actually making it worse. They're enabling, they're making it bigger. So yes, we want you to help people, but first you got to help yourself. You got to put your own oxygen mask on, they say on the airplanes. Before you help anyone else put their oxygen mask on. You have to fill up your own cup before you can help somebody else. And this might seem so simple, but people don't do it. People don't do it. People takes all kinds of action from a very negative emotional state, and they're out of alignment. They're not full of clarity. They're full of negative thoughts. They're full of negative emotion, and it's creating more of the problem than the solution. So you might not agree with me or some of the things that I'm saying, but I just say hang in there with an open mind, and we'll move into some of this material and it might make more sense to you. Because essentially what I'm doing is trying to help you think in a different way. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. So let's do something different, because maybe then we'll get different results. And I do want to say something for trauma. A lot of this is around clearing trauma thoughts. I call them trauma thoughts, negative thinking, trauma thoughts. Any of that is often based in some real thing that happened to you or that you witnessed. And trauma is everywhere. You turn on the television, there's trauma. So there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't have any trauma. My life has been so happy. If you watch TV, you're watching trauma. There's a lot on there that's terrible, terrible, negative stuff. And it's kind of traumatizing to your nervous system. It's why you filter what your children watch. Because if you put a little child in front of a very scary show, they're traumatized. It's really traumatizing. And a lot of times we've become kind of numb to it. But what I'm trying to teach in this class is we want to sort of reawaken that sensitivity and recognize that we are sensitive beings with a nervous system that's absorbing things around us. And so we want to be very particular about what we're watching on TV or who we're hanging out with or what we're doing. If you really want to change things in your life, work on changing your environment, work on changing who you're hanging out with, work on changing on what you're watching on TV. We're changing up an old habit so we can create new, healthier habits. So I talk a lot about codependency, and a lot of people ask me, what is codependency? Codependency is a set of learned behaviors which are developed as a result of exposure to trauma. That's my definition. So just like drugs or alcohol, codependent behaviors are addictive and can be difficult to stop. So many people ask me, what are these behaviors? And there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. And I basically believe my definition is so broad, I believe everybody's codependent. Anybody who has ever tried to control somebody else is being codependent. So codependency meaning that you're doing these behaviors to try to control your outside environment that you can't control. There's this prayer in the 12-step program that teaches how you can accept. It goes like this: accept the things you cannot change, Change the things you can, and you want the wisdom to know the difference. So you're asking the divine, uh, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. That's the solution to life. Accept the things I cannot change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Years and years of people's lives are spent trying to change the things they can't change, other people, and ignoring the things they can change, their own thinking, themselves, their habits, their thoughts, their beliefs. Wisdom to know the difference. Can't change other people, can change my thoughts, my beliefs. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to work on changing your thoughts and your beliefs. So these codependent behaviors, and I put them in a bit broad category. A lot of times people say there's only codependents and there's addicts. There's people who use drugs and then the people they're married to, and those are the two categories. No, everybody's codependent. If you've ever been controlling, you're codependent. The drug addict that gets clean is codependent underneath the using the drugs. The alcoholic that gets sober is codependent underneath the drinking. And any of us, when we are being controlling, or I'm going to give you a list of behaviors, any of these behaviors, you are trying to control a situation that you can't control. And that is a form, in my broad definition, of codependency. So, codependent behaviors: rescuing, fixing, people pleasing, blaming, resenting, explaining things to people that don't want to hear your explanation, complaining, justifying, rationalizing, comparing, judging, arguing, giving unsolicited advice, voicing worry, criticizing, controlling, manipulating, gossiping, hypervigilance, bullying, war stories, needing to be right, hyper responsible, hyper irresponsible. All of these are codependent behaviors, but they're also behaviors that are blocking, and they're thoughts that they're blocking your ability to have your dreams come true. If you're doing these things, your dreams are not going to come true. So the simplest solution that I'm trying to teach here is stop doing these things. And you can think of it, people do this all day long. You can think of it like a backseat driver is being codependent. What are they doing? Joe, go here, drive there. They're bossy. They're telling somebody what to do. They're telling somebody what to do who doesn't want their opinion. It's one thing if you're asking somebody, hey, I need help. I need directions. Can you give me directions how to get to somewhere? It's another thing to be driving your own way, and the backseat driver is like, hey, that was dumb. Go right here. Go left there. You don't want to hear that. Why is that person doing that? That person is trying to control something that they can't control, and they're blocking their own limiting beliefs, their own dreams to come true. So that person you might say, oh, what if the front seat driver is driving dangerously and the back seat driver is just trying to help them out? Pay attention to how you feel. The person receiving the advice, if they don't like it, then it's unsolicited advice that they don't want. If they're not driving safely, and let's say the person in the back seat is like, oh, you're not driving safely, then the person in the back seat needs to maybe swap and start driving them instead, or get out of the car. Don't be with somebody that's not driving safely, instead of driving with somebody who's not driving safely and then trying to control them. So these are some examples of a little bit of what I'm talking about. It's going to be more clear as I explain it. So Now I wanna describe it in the context of the law of attraction. I don't know if you've ever read any of those books by Esther and Jerry Hicks. They've written about 20, and their first one's called The Law of Attraction. The one I use the most is called Ask and It Is Given. But it describes in there at the back of the book, I think there's like 23 processes how to sort of change your thinking so you can change your life. And they're very effective processes, and I highly recommend them, and I highly recommend the book. And you can actually listen to any of this stuff on YouTube. You're on YouTube now. If you go to YouTube after my video and you type in Abraham Hicks, there'll be a bunch of videos will pop up. They're like little 15-minute videos. Hit autoplay and skip over the commercials and just listen to that stuff. It's fantastic. If you want to change your thinking, which will change your emotions, which will change your behaviors, which will change your life and cause your dreams to come true, listen to Abraham Hicks on YouTube daily, 15 minutes a day, half an hour a day, hour a day, every day. Listen. You want to start tinkering with your mind and changing up some of your entrenched thinking. You want to free it up. So what they teach in these books on the law of attraction is they teach that we live in a vibrational universe and that everything is a vibration. So you can think of it like a little bit like this is a dream. So you could think of a dream that in a dream, everything that's happening in your dream is coming from you. It's not like somebody's inserting something into your dream. It's your own psyche. It's you. If somebody dies in your dream, it's not real. You wake up and you realize, oh, that person's still alive. It's all kind of from you. And many of us, are aware of that, like that our dreams are often a reflection of what's going on in our lives. Maybe when things are going well, we have really happy dreams. Maybe when we have a lot of stress, we have these sort of stress dreams. But if you can think of it, that what the law of attraction teaches is that the whole world is like that. It's like it's all our dream, and that this is all a vibration. And so if you can change your dream, you can change your reality. I like this a lot. A lot of what I'm teaching I like because it reminds me of Native American spirituality. It's not the same. I know they're different, but there's some themes that are similar. And one of them is earlier what I was talking about ignoring the negative reality and focusing on your dream and things that you want to, and the positive thoughts that are helping you manifest your dream. In the high ceremony of the Native people, it's about focusing on the tree of life and praying to the tree of life, which I equate with focusing on the solution and ignoring the clowns that are out there trying to distract us from our goal, so to speak, the sacred clowns, the heyokas, ignoring them because we want to focus on the dream and the power and the connection with the divine, not on the distractions. So I feel, this philosophy is sort of teaching the same thing. In a similar way, I've heard this taught at ceremony before, is that this is a dream, that the real world is the other side, and that when we come here, this is a dream. And I love that idea. And because it makes it, you kind of free up a little bit some of this entrenched of I'm in charge of everything, I'm in control of everything, instead of just sort of relaxing a little bit and like, okay, this is like a dream, as if I were in a dream. What would I do in a dream? I would change things up if I was having a bad dream, and because it's a dream and I can change it because it's all coming from me. So that's a premise that they teach. Also, a really important premise is something called the emotional guidance scale, which is this idea that Abraham Hicks, or Esther and Jerry Hicks, the teacher is called Abraham in the book. So Abraham teaches that there's 22 emotional vibrational scales. Like there's vibration is just like a frequency level, like a radio station, radio channels, and that the highest vibration is joy, appreciation, feeling empowered, feeling freedom and love. And the lowest vibration is fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. And then there's 22 emotions all ranked there in order. And when you're working on changing your thinking, a lot of times people who are in a really low vibration, let's say they're in fear, depression, powerlessness, they're suicidal or something, they can't jump to the higher vibrations of optimism, enthusiasm, love easily. It's too big a jump. It's like a different radio frequency. They can't get from there. So, uh, and this happens to me in my practice where I work as a therapist, that there's a lot of times people will be in a really low place and they don't want to hear about positive thinking. They're like, F you, I don't want to hear about any of that. That's a bunch of crap. Life sucks and then you die. And so when somebody's in a place like that, you want to realize that there's certain sort of levels of positive thinking that you want to work your way up the vibrational scale, so to speak. So if you're down here in fear, grief, depression, um, a higher vibration than that is actually guilt. And a higher vibration than that, I'll read them up, is jealousy. And then higher than jealousy is rage. Higher than rage is revenge. Higher than revenge is anger. Higher than anger is discouragement. Higher than discouragement is blame. Higher than blame is worry. Higher than worry is doubt. Higher than doubt is disappointment. Higher than disappointment is overwhelmment. Higher than overwhelmment is frustration. And you can kind of see how these, oh yeah, that is a little bit better feeling. Oh, that is a little bit better feeling. Higher than frustration is pessimism. Higher than pessimism is boredom. Higher than boredom is contentment. Contentment. Oh yeah. So contentment is actually the beginning of the positive emotions. And then the ones above that get more positive: hopefulness, optimism, positive expectation, enthusiasm, passion, and then the highest is joy, appreciation, empowerment, freedom, love. So when we are working with changing your thinking, for those of you that may be in a really low place, you might not want to hear my positive thinking talk. And so you'll see later, I'm going to give you some tools of how to raise your vibration. I'd much rather you be in anger than depression. Anger feels better than depression. It still doesn't feel good, but it's on your way. And so we're looking at incremental change of really trying to work your way up. For those of you that already feel really good, you might say, oh, I've worked through all that stuff and I feel great. And it's like, I'm glad you do. And that's wonderful. And, this is about, hey, this growth never stops. Why not, get happier and more free and, reach more of your goals. And that's what this is about, sort of some fine tuning about getting up into those higher realms of vibration and happiness and manifestation of what you really want. A big teaching in the law of attraction is that human beings are eternal, that we come back many lives over and over and over again. And I know there's many religions that teach that, but the law of attraction teaches that too, that we come back around again and again and again and again, and that there is no death, and that actually that all of these beings are on the other side, and they want to interact with us, and they're talking to us all the time, and they want to help us all the time, and that we can continue relationships after people have their physical death, and that death is not an accident. Every death is a suicide. Everybody takes themselves out. They die when they want to die, and there's no accident there. And if you have a hard time believing that, I respect you, and you don't have to. You can take what you like and leave the rest of what I'm teaching. There's a lot of what I'm teaching that'll work for you still, even if you don't believe the stuff that I'm saying right now. So The next part they teach in law of attraction is that our purpose in life is what is called contrast, that suffering is the purpose, but that suffering is actually a low vibration word. Suffering is sort of like, life sucks and then you die. Instead, what Abraham teaches is that it's contrast, and that the contrast expands the universe, and that that's actually why we came. It's this expansion of the universe, because as soon as a problem happens, the solution is created in this vibrational place called the vortex. So a problem, solution is created in the vortex. A problem, the solution is created in the vortex. So this vibrational place in the vortex has so many solutions in it, and that's why we came. So every time there's a problem, the solution is immediately created. There's actually 5 steps in the law of attraction. Step 1 is suffering, or contrast is the positive way to put it, which causes you to ask. And this step 2 is it is given, meaning the solution is immediately created in the vortex. And what Abraham teaches is actually that we have sort of a higher self, what they call our inner being, the non-physical self. Our non-physical self is actually sort of living a parallel universe in the vortex of everything that we want. So let's say we're down here suffering, and the more we're suffering, the more our higher self is happy and living the solution up in the vortex. And that our higher self is kind of always beaming this solution to us and living the solution up there, broadcasting the solution, wanting us to stop focusing on the problem, look up in the vortex at the solution, kind of get in an emotional, vibrational state to be able to really tune in to that inner being who is living the solution, our higher self, in the vortex. But it's not an intellectual process, except that the part where you want to change your thinking, but you really want to pay attention to how you're feeling. If you're still not feeling good, then you still got some negative thinking in there going on. If you're feeling negative and you're like, "Oh no, I'm all positive thoughts, but I'm feeling bad." Underneath that bad emotion is some negative thought that you want to change up in there. So step 1, ask from the suffering or contrast. 2, it is given. Your your inner being or the divine immediately becomes the solution that you ask for instantaneously as soon as the problem happens, and that your inner being is living the solution in the vortex immediately. Step 3 is get happy. Step 3 is improve your emotional state to get into a better and better feeling place so you can tune in to the solution, and then it can flow into your experience. Too many people get too intellectual at this point, and they're trying to figure it out in their intellect to get to the solution. No, you just want to get happy. And then too many people think that they have to get happy about the subject at hand. So let's say they're suffering because they have a bad relationship, and they ask for a better relationship. The solution of the better relationship is immediately created in the vortex, and your inner being is living this happy relationship in the vortex. And then you're like, get happy to be able to receive the solution. You're like trying to get happy about the relationship, but you can't be because you're not happy about the relationship. So change the channel, change the subject, change the channel in your head. Get happy about something else, because even if you're happy about something else, the solution about the relationship will still flow into your experience because your inner being hasn't forgotten the problem. So let your inner being handle the hard stuff. You just think about the flower that you just planted in your garden that you feel happy about, or you think about the beautiful day outside. Or if you're able to, you want to get to those higher states of meditation where you can just quiet your mind and and let your vibration rise and feel that connection to divine energy without based on anything in your environment, but just feel good because you're connected. And you can think of that sometimes. There are things in our environment that inspire us to feel connected to the divine. But what you want to develop eventually is a practice that you can get connected to that state of quieting your mind and inner peace without having to observe something in your outer world to be able to feel good. We want you to feel good anyway. So, step 1, ask. Step 2, it is given. Solutions created in the vortex. Step 3, get happy. Raise your vibration up to the level of the solution. The solution is a high vibration, so you're going to have to get up to contentment and above in the emotional scale to be able to receive this solution. And so the more you can do that, the more that these solutions can come into your experience. I'll give an example. The other day, I practice these principles a lot. But the hot topics often in my life, I can't get the solution right away because I have too much negative programming around it. And so I try to distract myself to think of other things and then let the solutions come with me thinking of something else that makes me happy instead of the problem. Uh, but there's other topics that I don't really care about a lot, and I manifest things in those topics really quickly. I went shopping the other day and I forgot rice. And I was like, darn it, I forgot rice. I wanted to make some rice and I couldn't make rice because I forgot it. And I was walking home from the store, mad that I forgot rice, wishing that I had rice. And lo and behold, on the sidewalk, there was a box of rice. It was weird too. It was like a box of like individual packages of rice in plastic bags, brand new, unopened from the store. And I realized there was like a food bank nearby. But there was nobody at the food bank. It was closed. It was long after hours. It was like towards the evening. But somebody had left a box of rice out on the street. And there was bags and bags of rice there. And so I took them because I knew they were a gift from the universe for me on this non-controversial topic of rice. And those kinds of things happen all the time for me and others that practice these principles around non-hot topics. But when you get really good at this stuff, you start to manifest things that are hot topics too. Like you just learn to quiet your mind and get off the focus, like ignore the sacred clown, ignore the clowns in your life and focus on the solution. Ignore the clowns, focus on the solution. Ignore the clowns, focus on the solution. And more things that you want will start to appear to you without you being in control of it. Because you don't want to be in control of your outside world. You want to be in control of your inner world and what you're thinking and thus your emotions. And thus, you want to start getting connected to that quiet space in meditation where you're listening for divine inspiration. There's, many people that don't believe in the divine, but they do believe in creativity. And so you can think of it as creative inspiration. Where does creative inspiration comes from? It comes from when you're in that sort of quieted mind and you're just in this contemplative state and you're waiting for inspiration. So that's what we're going for. So step 1, ask. Step 2, it is given. Step 3, get happy. Step 4 is get good at step 3. Stay consistently happy on a regular basis. So I equate it to brushing your teeth. So let's say you're brushing your teeth and your teeth feel good. You're brushing every day, feels good, maybe even twice a day. That would be great. And then all of a sudden you forget to brush your teeth one day and your teeth feel really kind of crappy. And then you forget another day and then you forget another day. And let's say 7 days in a row you haven't brushed your teeth and you're like, oh my God, it feels awful. I got to go brush my teeth. It's the same thing with your thinking. I have so many people say, oh, Tanya, I tried this stuff and it was great the day I tried it, but it isn't working anymore. Well, when was the last time you did it? Oh, 2 weeks ago. And it's not working anymore. Well, did you do it today? No, but I did it 2 weeks ago, like all day, and now it's still not working. So that's like brushing your teeth all day one day and then not for 2 weeks. It doesn't work. You got to do it every day. So consistency every day. Work on your thinking, and I'll give you a little tip. Do it as soon as you wake up, the earliest in the morning, because your thoughts gain momentum during the day. And if you get out on the wrong side of bed and you have a negative thought, that will gain momentum through the day. So take a nap because that's the best time when you wake up to change your thinking. So ask, step 1. Step 2, solutions in the vortex. Step 3, get happy so you can receive the solution through inspirations. Step 4, do this every day consistently on a regular basis. Step 5 is Step 5 is the magical step. It's when you no longer are mad when you're back in step 1 in the suffering. You're no longer mad. I I equate this to relationships. I see this all the time in marriages where a lot of times, uh, in the beginning in relationship, there's a lot of contrast in relationships. People are trying to figure each other out and everything pushes their buttons and they do this and they don't do that. And then after a while, it starts to be after years of understanding how to ignore each other's flaws, because this stuff works in relationship skill building. Ignore your partner's flaws and focus on what they do right, and you will have a happy marriage. Ignore their flaws and focus on what they do right, and you will have a happy marriage. And so, step 5 is when you're back in the contrast, it no longer upsets you because you have sort of this through the eyes of the divine. You have this really divine look. So, for example, in marriages where you start to see your partner's flaws as sort of fun and funny and divine because you love them so much, you overlook the flaws or they just don't bug you the same way like they used to because you just have a broader perspective and you see them as sort of quirky and this lovable part of them that's flawed and you love it anyway. So, and I equate this again to the Native American ceremony, which I've learned so much from because the uh, the co- it's in a sense it's contrast. Like for example, the sweat lodge, the Inipi purification ceremony is about it's suffering. You're in this hot place and it can get really hot in there, and you're thinking, why are these people going in there? But it's developing step 5. It's like in the midst of suffering that you can focus on the divine and feel this divine connection and recognize, like, don't pay attention to the suffering, ignore it. You just pay attention to my mind is quiet. I'm open to divine inspiration. I'm open and connected to the other side. That's the solution. Meanwhile, oh yeah, my body's hot, but I'm not paying attention to that. It's strengthening a muscle that we all need in the midst of suffering. It's sort of like babies. You learn that in parenting, that babies have no ability for delayed gratification. It always cracks me up when I'm feeding a baby, let's say, and I'm making their bottle, and like they know the bottle is their food, and they know that they're with you, and they see you making the bottle, and they know they're going to get it, or at least they hope they're going to get it. But they just start crying like, "Do it faster, do it faster. I need it now." And so I always laugh and I'm like, "Hold on, it's coming, it's coming. I just gotta make sure it's the right temperature and that it's all mixed up real. Just hold on, it's coming." But the baby's so impatient, they're like, "Ah!" Like, "You're not feeding me now, this second. So you're a terrible parent." And in a sense, we're all like that. Like, we want instant gratification. And instead of just relax and allow and trust and realize that it's all as well. So, step 5, being back in contrast and no longer being upset about it. You kind of see the purpose of life and you see the purpose of the contrast. It doesn't bother you anymore because you're able to ignore it, rise above it, and focus on the larger solution at hand. You're able to focus on the expansion of the universe. So, when you begin to see the physical world through the eyes of Source, then you can distract yourself and withdraw your attention from the aspects of this planet that you don't want to replicate and repeat. Because this is the thing about the law of attraction, the more you pay attention to something, the bigger it gets. And this is what people really don't understand because there's kind of a belief socially that no, if there's a problem, you need to pay attention to it and fix it. This is why engineers are not very good at the law of attraction because what do? They're problem solvers. They look at What's the problem? And let me think of the different avenues of how I can fix it. And so if you bring that, it might be good if you're have a specific engineering project, but if you bring it to life circumstances and you're always looking for the problem and thinking of the angles of how you can fix it, it's too much for you. There's too much to fix. There's too many problems. And so it ends up you getting bogged down in the problem. You're making it bigger. You're making it bigger by focusing on the problem. So you can think of it like the codependent person that is telling somebody like, "Oh, you shouldn't eat that food because it's not on your diet and it'll make you fat." Like, nobody wants to hear that. As soon as somebody says that to you, it's like, "I wanna eat more because you just said that." You don't wanna hear that. Why are they focusing on that? Instead, they should be like, "You know what? You look beautiful. You're just so sparkling and you have such great energy, and I love to be around you." Like, you wanna say that to somebody, not like, "Oh, that's not on your diet." So notice the different vibration of those 2 comments and how when you focus on the problem, you make it bigger. And this is very difficult for people to understand, especially around, say, world politics or the environment. People are not trusting that the divine has our back and the divine has a plan and the divine is more powerful and that the solution is at hand. And the more that we observe things that upset us, the more the solution is being lived in the vortex. And then our job is to get happy, trust, raise our vibration, and the solution will come to us through divine inspiration. So instead of spending time focusing and complaining about what's wrong with the environment, just focus on the solution and dream the solutions. And, you know, uh, be the change you want to see in the world. Focus on that solution. That's a quote of Gandhi. So, another thing with the law of attraction is that that this world is a law of attraction. It's not assertion. And so no one can assert into your experience. You attract it, everything, all of it. Whatever energy that you're offering vibrationally is being responded to by the universe. Like attracts like. And so there are 2 aspects of your physical being, of your being, which the law of attraction is responding, your physical being and your non-physical being. And so that your non-physical self, your inner being, your higher self is attracting all the good stuff. And you maybe, if you're in a lower vibrational state, are attracting some bad stuff if you're focused on it or thinking about it or having negative thoughts or worrisome thoughts. So what you want to do is get your thoughts in alignment with your inner being, and then you'll start attracting the solution, and then the problem will get less and less and less. And it's very, very counterintuitive. A lot of people will argue about, like, what about babies? Are they attracting bad stuff? So we're all old souls. We've all come through this many times over and over and over again. And that everybody's purpose is their purpose for coming here. And it's really not our business. Now, that's not to say that we're not supposed to help people, but again, you only want to help people after you've helped yourself, or you're not actually helping them. You're making it bigger and worse. And this is where people are skipping the step and they're trying to help others before they've helped themselves, and they're not in alignment, they're not clear, and they're part of the problem. So, this is a world of attraction, not assertion. So, if somebody bad does something to you, it happens to you, you attracted it. You got some negative thing going on in your vibration. And this happens when people have a lot of trauma. Let's say they have PTSD, they've had a traumatic childhood, or they have trauma in their adulthood, and then they attract more of it and they have more and more trauma and more and more trauma. And they're like, but I'm a victim. It's not my fault. This stuff keeps happening. You want to really look at, like, oh, I need to resolve my trauma that's happened to me. Maybe I need to go to therapy. Maybe I need to cry about it. This is really happening to me. So the law of attraction would teach that that's something in your vibration. So it's like a dream. If you have a nightmare in your dream, it's your fault because maybe you have stress in your life and the stress is not resolved and you have chronic stress going on and it's coming out in your dreams. So, the advice for somebody like that is to work on these issues and attend some more of my classes to learn how, so you can quiet your mind and get sort of in a more peaceful state and start attracting better and better things in your life. And then if something does pop up that doesn't feel good, something happens to you that feels like assertion, you have the tools to handle it and recognize, like, oh, that's from me. I did that. I did that. I caused that. I attracted that. So, moving on, I'm going to move out of the law of attraction now, and I just don't want to do a little teaching on the chakras. The chakras are energy centers in your body, because all of this that we're talking about is energy work. This is about energy. We want to raise our vibration to a higher energy so we can have a happier life instead of living in a low vibration where we're focused on trauma and negative stuff, and then we attract more of that. We want to get in the high vibration where we attract the solution. So the chakras are these energy centers in your body. So the first, we're going to talk about the 7 chakras that are in your body. The first chakra is at the base of your spine. It's about your body sense and your body, your right to be here, to exist. It's about physical things, manifesting, being born. It's the time frame from womb to birth. The second chakra is in your sacrum, and that is your genitalia. It's the seat of your emotions. So when Abraham talks about your emotional guidance system, that's from your second chakra. These are your emotions. I feel. And so as you're growing, from the developmentally speaking, it's birth to about 18 months. It's sort of like when you're a baby and what do babies do? They cry all the time. That's their emotions. They're so emotional and they're just expressing themselves through emotion. And it's also about your needs and getting your needs met. And so what does a baby do? They cry to get their needs met. And then it's the parent's job to read the cries of the baby and help them get their emotional needs met. It's also a place of really just feeling your emotions, feeling the right to feel your emotions, because this is where your self-esteem comes from. Self-esteem actually comes from getting your emotions validated. It's as simple as that, getting your emotions validated. Like a little kid that falls on the playground and starts crying, and then their parent is like, "Oh, come here, dear, you poor thing. Let me hold you." And then the kid's like, "Oh, I'm dying." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you fell and hurt yourself." And then 2, 3 minutes later, the kid's like, "Oh, there's Johnny. I want to go play with him." And the kid runs away to go play with Johnny and is fine. And that's building self-esteem in your child when you're really validating their emotions. So now, some people will say there's also the opposite extreme of that, which is when you're too preoccupied, sort of like a helicopter mom with your children and paying too much attention to their emotions. That is not healthy self-esteem building. That is a wrong dynamic, but I'm not going to go into that now, but I'll go into that at a later time when I go into this information more deeply. So taking action. It's your individual self. It's who you are. This is actually where your boundaries are. It's sort of like when children start to, at 18 months to say 4 years, they start to individuate from their parents. They know, like, I'm somebody separate. I'm my own person. I am. And so this is the place of action. So you can think of it like we were talking about before, that the thoughts, emotion, and action. The first chakra is like the thoughts of I am. The second chakra is the feelings of I feel. And the third chakra is the action of I act. And so we really, these are where these energy centers are located in the body. The fourth chakra is your heart chakra. That's about your sense of being in relationships, and it's where your love for yourself and others comes from. So it's this I love, and it's about creating healthy relationships. So you can think of it that this is about, say, age 4 to 8, when kids are really going on play dates and they are playing with their friends. Maybe they're playing with their siblings. They're really developing these relationships. They're understanding friendships. And younger than that, they're usually doing more like parallel play. They're sort of playing near each other, but not with each other. And then when as natural development happens, they start developing relationships with other people. And as parents, the parenting thing to do then is to help your child. At the third chakra, I didn't say this, the parent's job is to help the child with boundaries when they have to take action. So when they're crawling or walking around, you want to make sure they're safe and childproof the place and help them set boundaries so they stay safe. Same thing at the fourth chakra, when children are developing relationships, parents need to kind of be in there and helping them develop relationships. Like, we don't talk to people that way. We talk to them nicely, and we don't yell at them. And when we make a mistake, we apologize. Say, I'm sorry, I took your toy. Here's your toy back. Like, these kinds of parenting skills are learned at the fourth chakra about how to develop relationships in a healthy family or a functional family. So the fifth chakra is your voice. And this is how you create yourself in the world and in the minds of others through language and word. So you can think of this as sort of the child who's, say, age 8 to 12. That's sort of like the truth teller in the family. Those age children are wonderful because they say the things that the family doesn't want you to say. And I had a neighbor child one time she was about that age, 9 or 10, something like that. And I saw her out front one day when I was coming out of my house, and I just said hello to her, and she said, hi. And I said, oh, how are you doing? And she's like, I'm okay, but my dad lost his job. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I wonder if her dad wants her telling that to people. But, she's just so full of like that, I'm sure, is what they're talking about at home. And so there she is, just telling what's going on. And, but this is our voice. And so often, as parents, we need to work with our kids when they're speaking the truth, and they might say things that we don't want to acknowledge is going on in the family, and or in ourselves, or they might point out our flaws or our blind spots. But this is what's so wonderful about children, is they're sort of teaching us to be honest with ourselves and what's really going on. And in a functional family, again, when the child is right, it's really important that the parent acknowledge it. Like, when the child is like, you're mean or something, when the parent is like, no, I'm not mean, I'm just trying to look out for your safety. And then it's like, looking back, you might say like, oh, you know what? I was really scared in that moment because you were going to go play out. You were running towards the street, and I thought you were going to go in the street and get hurt. And so I didn't speak to you in a kind way. And it was because I was really worried that you were going to get hurt. But I realize now that you weren't going to run out in the street, and that was just my fear, and that you were actually just playing in the front yard, and all was well. So I apologize that I spoke to you in such a harsh way. But how about we have you play in the backyard now, because in the front yard, I think it is too close to the street, and it could, if it could be dangerous if by mistake you throw a ball out in the street, and I'd rather you play in the backyard, or something like that. Small example of how to help children to acknowledge when children are telling the truth. And if they point out a flaw, to say, you're right, and I'm sorry. Now, many of us growing up did not have parents that did that. And so there's this codependency of needing to be right. Needing to be right is really about this, that my truth wasn't acknowledged when I was younger, and my version of events and what I saw to be wasn't acknowledged. And so now I have a hot button about it. And in situations when my truth is not acknowledged, whew, I fly off the handle, and I need to be right. So we're going to work on that later in later classes. But that's where it comes from, and that's the chakra that we're clearing when we're working on that. So next energy center is the sixth chakra. That's your third eye. It's about your inner sight and your outer sight, and how you see yourself fitting into the world with purpose. And so you could think of this as developmentally sort of like teenage years, like 13 to 19. This is when kids are sort of thinking like, what do I want to be when I grow up? How do I fit into the world? What are my goals? Who do I want to partner? Do I want to be in a relationship? Do I want to get married? Do I want to have kids? Do I want to have a job? What do I want to do for a career? What are my goals? So uh, this is this is a lot where the limiting beliefs come in of this class, is that this is where our goals are often, our desires are born out of our suffering. So let's say we suffer, something happens, and we're like, I want to be, I never want this to happen again. So I want to make sure that this is what I'm dreaming is the solution. But if we have limiting beliefs around it, we don't believe we can have it. Like, I want a happier relationship, but my relationship sucks right now. Or I want a happier relationship, but my husband's never going to change. I want a happier relationship, but my wife's never going to change. And so those limiting beliefs are stopping us from getting what we want. So it's the same thing around any goal. Let's say I have a goal of, hey, I want to be a millionaire, but I can't be a millionaire because the economy is really bad right now, and I'm not very good at making money, and I have a lot of debt, so I can't be a millionaire. But I want to be a millionaire. So this goal setting stuff is right there in the sixth chakra. It's your mind's eye of what your goals are, what you want. So we're going to work on clearing these limiting beliefs, because according to the law of attraction, there's nothing you can't be or do or have. There's nothing you can't be or do or have. There's nothing you can't be or do or have. It's limitless. You are a deliberate creator. You can create anything you absolutely want to. That's for yourself. You can't control other people. That's for yourself. There's nothing you can't be or do or have. So we're going to work more on that. That's from your sixth chakra. Now, the seventh chakra is your ability to experience the limitless of life. So with what I just said to you about there's nothing you can't be or do or have, if you thought like, that's a bunch of crap, I don't believe that, I'd say that's a block in your seventh chakra. Because what we're trying to do is recognize that this is a dream, and we can change anything we want in this vibrational universe. And it starts with some of these processes that I'm teaching in this class. So at the chakra level, there is one way to look at this. This is from the Margaret Lynch and also Rhys Thomas, if you ever want to look up their books. But at the different chakras, that there's actually these negative vows that we take at each chakra that are the limiting beliefs that we have. And I find these very helpful. The first chakra, we have the vow to be loyal to or rebel against our family, our earliest family paradigm, that there's something about this vow to be loyal to the family. In the group, the 12-step program, Adult Children of Alcoholics, we learn about the vow to be loyal to our dysfunctional family. But there's also the vow to rebel against our dysfunctional family, and that's seated at the first chakra. At the second chakra, there's a vow to never be vulnerable, a vow to not have any needs, a vow to not feel my feelings, a vow to never ask for help. That's all second chakra negative vows, limiting beliefs. Third chakra, the vow to be invisible, the vow to be appropriate or be what others want me to be. So you can think of it as if you've ever wanted to step up in the world and be bigger than you are, or take up more space, but you don't because you kind of feel like I can't or I shouldn't. That's that third chakra vow to be invisible. And we're going to work on clearing that. Fourth chakra, vow to be perfect or expect perfection from others. And this again is that heart chakra. Heart chakra is really around loving yourself and loving others. And when you're too busy criticizing yourself or criticizing others, the reason you're criticizing yourself or others is because you either expect yourself to be perfect or you expect them to be perfect. And the criticism is sort of trying to correct them so they'll get perfect, or correct yourself so you'll get perfect. And all of that is limiting beliefs and not possible. Fifth chakra, the vow to speak the truth of your limitation, to give voice to all other negative vows that are inside your heart truth. So this is again the truth teller at the fifth chakra. That people who have blocks in the fifth chakra will speak their limitation. I'm not good enough. The economy sucks. People don't like me. I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. Or other people suck. I'm great, and nobody's good enough for me. There's so many crappy men out there, and there's nobody good. And whatever your limiting beliefs are, or whatever your goals are, or this idea that I have cancer, and people who have cancer die, so I'm going to die. There's nothing I can do. I might as well surrender. Um, they told me I have stage 4. There's no hope for me. Those are limiting beliefs, and they're not actually true. And there's plenty of people who have come back from stage 4 cancer. Louise Hay is a great classic example of that. Stage 4 cancer, and she healed herself from it with her thoughts and wrote many books. And she also is a wonderful person to follow on YouTube, Louise Hay, Hay, and has many books about changing your thinking. Okay, fifth chakra. Sixth chakra, limiting belief. Vow to see the world through your lower chakra wounds. So this is sort of a vow of loyalty, but it's sort of like a loyalty to your own thinking. Like, nope, I'm a negative, I'm a pessimist, I'm a realist, and that's just not possible because of A, B, and C. So this is a person who has limiting beliefs around their goals. The stuff you're teaching is not true. You're in denial, and you need to face reality. Abraham always says, don't face reality, create reality. Don't face reality, create reality. So the negative vow at the seventh chakra is the vow to experience the divine through your lower chakra wounds. In other words, you see the divine as limited. And this is big. You can notice this in all religions. Whenever there's sort of a negative thought about the divine, that's not about the divine. That's about a traumatized human. It was putting human trauma on the lens of the divine. Abraham teaches that every thought that you think that brings you relief is a divine thought. Every thought that you think that makes you feel worse is a limiting belief. It's like your trauma is talking. So I like to think of it, you can think of like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. I like to think of it that, okay, the angel's on one shoulder, the divine, and that it's my trauma is on my other shoulder. So what we teach about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is that it's a flashback. People who have it are in a flashback. They're in an emotional state from a long time ago when their trauma happened, but they feel like it's happening now, and they are convinced that it is happening now. And when the people around them are like, it's not happening now, they're like, yes, it is. And so you can think of it as the classic, Iraq war veteran who, when a truck goes down the street and it's rumbling and kind of shakes the ground a little bit, they hit the ground and go into the bed, and they're covering their head thinking they're going to be bombed. And the people in the house that weren't at war are like, hey, what are you doing? And they're like, it felt like we were going to be bombed. And some people have it so severe they really believe that they're going to be bombed. But some people can snap out of it and be like, oh, I guess I was just in a flashback that I thought that was happening. But their whole nervous system is all really pumped up about it. So all of us have that all the time. And, even if you don't have the official diagnosis, but there is these old emotional states, and I call them trauma thoughts and trauma states from something that happened, that we bring into the current moment, and we think it's real right now when it's not. And you can often try to convince people like it's not real, like you're okay, you're fine, all is well. And they're like, no, doom, I'm worthless, or whatever thought they're thinking. They're so attached to it. So these are all limiting beliefs attached to old memories and traumatic things that have happened to people that they haven't fully processed. And so they're bringing it emotionally into the present because they're sitting on kind of like, you can think of it like a holding tank of trauma. And so what we want to do, and we're going to give you some techniques of how we can release that little by little by little, sort of let some air out of this tank. of releasing these old trauma thoughts. So now the technique I want to teach is called the emotional freedom technique, or tapping. So tapping is based on this ancient tradition of acupuncture and uses these acupressure points. And so tapping involves using our fingertips to tap on acupressure points on our hands and face while mentally and emotionally tuning into a limiting belief, emotion, or even an entire experience. Tapping is clinically proven to reduce the symptoms of PTSD. It looks strange, it looks out of the box, but it's also, think of it, it's not out of the box as acupuncture. We're not sticking needles in, we're just tapping on our face. But in hundreds of case studies and clinical studies over the past 20 years, it's a mind-body techniques that lets us do two key things for transformation. It allows us to access our subconscious mind and physically tune down the fight or flight response that's controlled by our nervous system. It's very important because studies in neuroscience show that the subconscious mind is 85 to 90% of your mind. And it's where you store all your beliefs, memories, and automatic behaviors. So when we talk about inner blocks to success, like paradigms, limiting beliefs, and these negative vows, those all reside primarily in our subconscious and in our energy system. So you can tap on any acupressure point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which side you tap on, um, or if you tap on both sides. But just when you're doing the tapping, I want to remind you that you want to tap on actual acupressure points. We're not just tapping on random places on our body or whatever. We're tapping on specific points. So learn the acupressure points and tap on those. Or you can just follow along with me. I tap on mostly the eyebrow point, which is on the hair of the eyebrow right here. Side of the eye point, which is right here, kind of on the bone. You can feel how sensitive these points are. They're nerves right there. Under the eye point, also on the bone right here. You can feel how sensitive that is. Between nose and mouth. Between the mouth and the chin. Cleft of the chin. The clavicle point. You see these two bones on either side here of your throat. Tap on them. Very sensitive. A lot of sensitive nerves. Also, the top of the part point, the top of your head, is sort of like the sensitive spot on a baby's head, on ourselves. That's an acupressure point as well. So these are the points that I want you to tap on. And we're going to do a little tapping together. Sometimes people like to tap on the fleshy part of the hand. It's also a tapping point. I do it sometimes, but if you want to, you can just tap in this point. And you can tap on any point. I like to switch it up because it's just more comfortable. But what we're doing is we're reprogramming our neural pathways when we are tapping. And you can find these acupressure or tapping points. Just Google it, EFT, emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping points, and they'll show you the different points on Google. You can find them. And so what we're tuning into when we're tapping is any thoughts you have that feel especially true for you. You want to sort of write down. If there's some connected trauma, something traumatic that happened to you, or some memory that comes up for you that you might still have some emotion around, you want to jot that down. So, so we're going to just do a little bit of tapping just so I can kind of show you how it goes. But I do want to do a little disclaimer that this is just a class. This is some education. This is not therapy. This is not a substitute for therapy. This is not any treatment or anything that is going on here. This is all about just teaching you this new technique, EFT tapping. You can learn about it. There's books about it. Margaret Lynch has a couple of great books about it, by the way. Her first one is called Tapping into Wealth. Her second one is called Unblocked. And it's all about exactly what I'm teaching you here. It's changing your thinking, using EFT tapping to change your thinking and moving up the vibrational scale. All right. So let's do, let's take a little breath. So if you can kind of feel yourself sitting in your chair, take a breath. Take another one. And we're just going to start tapping. Tap along with me, starting with the eyebrow point, and repeat after me what I say. I've been really hard on myself. I've been really hard on myself. And it's been really hard on me to have so much negative programming in my life, to feel like things are disappointing and impossible, to feel like the cards are stacked against me. That's some really hard stuff. To feel like I don't have any value or worth. To feel powerless and disappointed all the time. I've lived with anxiety and shame for years. I've paid a real price for my programming. This is hard stuff. And I carry it around 24 hours a day. Sometimes it wakes me up in the middle of the night. And I can't sleep. Worrying, depression. I totally honor myself. I've been really hard on myself. I've actually been mean to myself. I've been critical of myself to the point that I've broken my own heart before. I've literally beaten myself down. Of course, that's showing up in my life. Maybe I have insight about why I do that. But either way, I'm just going to honor myself in a new light today. I give myself the gift of compassion. I give myself the gift of understanding. I'm opening my heart. The wisdom of my heart. And understanding. I give myself the gift of self-love. And the reminder, or the new information, that I do deserve. I deserve to feel safe. Maybe I've never gotten that. Maybe I have grief about that. I honor any sadness that's coming up for me. My sadness is honoring me and everything I've lost because of the shame and the fear. I got a lot of programming from my family. Sometimes I fight, flight, or freeze. I really want to unlearn this programming. I really want to heal this. So I honor myself now. I honor who I am. I honor who I've always been. And I honor who I'm becoming. Conscious and deserving. Powerful and resourceful. My current reality is what I've created based on my entire life of programming and doing my best. Everything's changing now. I bless my current reality, and I'm open to everything that's now possible and unfolding for me. I totally honor my nervous system. I understand why it's wired this way. I totally honor my automatic thoughts. I understand why they're programmed this way. This programming has happened without my knowledge or choice. And I'm open to changing this. I'm open to questioning my thinking. I'm open to getting honest with my thinking. Every time I feel old programming come up, I'm open to a whole new way of thinking. I'm open to having new choices. I'm open to creating a new life. I'm open to managing my life differently. I'm open to shifting into a new empowered person. Today, I am safe. Yes, I deserve. Yes, I am worthy. Yes, I am enough. Yes, I belong. I have the right to say no. I have the right to set boundaries. I am now saying yes to manifesting my dreams. I say yes to better health. I say yes to receiving more. I say yes to support. I say yes to more love. I say yes to more money. I say yes to more fulfillment. I say yes to healthy relationships. I say yes to better self care. I am open to more money flowing into my experience. I am open to a healthy body. I say yes to managing and creating more. I say yes to asking and receiving more. What I have is limited only by what I believe. And I now choose to accept more. More abundance, more health, more wealth, happy relationships. I release old limiting beliefs, which no longer serve me. And I honor me and my history. And take a breath. All right. Awesome. Good job, everybody. So, if you can right now, write down 3 key aha moments from that tapping session. What are some thoughts that you have going through your head right now? And then if you can also write down 3 action steps that you wanna take. Did you get any inspirations? What happened to you during that tapping round? You can really feel how that energy is moving and sort of frees up your creative space. It gets you in that receiving mode of the divine inspiration. So I want to thank you all for joining me so much today. And if you got something from this, I ask if you could please donate to the fundraiser below. This fundraiser is it helps the Black Hills Sundance this June. And if you click on the GoFundMe link, that would be great. Any amount, you can contribute $1 or $5 or $10, any amount is welcome. If you enjoyed what I taught you today, and I am going to post some more videos this week, so please tune in. And thank you so much for watching me today. And I will see you again. This is Dr. Tanya from Dr. Tanya's Transformational Coaching. You can reach me at drtanyachase.com. And otherwise, I will see you back here on YouTube in the next video. Bye-bye. Thank you.